Welcome back to another episode of the Association Spotlight Series. I'm Lake Morehouse. Again here, joined by our CEO, Mark Drennan, for another legislative short. Right now, we're kind of at the halfway point of the legislative session, Mark, and today we're going to talk about mental hygiene a little bit. Is that right?
Right. Mental hygiene's been a hot topic down at the legislature this year, and this is something that we worked on last year. We had a comprehensive mental hygiene reform bill. We gathered a group of about 50 stakeholders. But there's still some issues and some things that we need to work on, and so we thought we'd talk about that today.
Sure. Yeah, we can just kick it off there with maybe for some of our listeners who aren't familiar, what is mental hygiene, kind of in the broad stroke?
So mental hygiene is a court process that seeks to force an individual who needs it into involuntary treatment. So these are individuals that present themselves as a danger to themselves or somebody else, and they're unwilling to go and seek treatment for some of the mental illness that they might be suffering from that's causing the dangerousness. So any individual, most of the time it's a family member, but it could be a physician, or it could be someone in the community, files a petition with their local court that alleges that this person is a danger to self or others, and that they need to be hospitalized against their wishes in order to seek treatment.
Okay. Yeah. What are kind of the current challenges there surrounding mental hygiene in West Virginia?
Well, it's a long and drawn out process.
Sure.
So we are in the midst, and I think in our last legislative short we talked about workforce issues and IDD waiver. Well, there's workforce issues that permeate just about every industry across the state, and one of those being psychiatric hospitalizations. So what we do is we have an overwhelming need for services, but sometimes we lack a continuum of care to serve some of these people where they need to be served at. And where our members come in is, our members are experts in mental health fields, so they provide guidance to the courts as to whether the person is actually in need of involuntary treatment because of their mental illness and that they're a danger to self or others. And so our individuals serve as the gatekeeper for that process. And so it becomes a sort of a messy situation. I mean, anytime that you're taking somebody that's unwilling to get treatment, by definition, they're a danger to themselves or somebody else, then you have to involve a lot of people. One of those being law enforcement. So once the petition's filed and the court accepts that, then an order is written and is given to the local sheriff's department, and then that responsibility falls onto the sheriffs. They have to go out and apprehend, they have to pick up this person and bring them before the court for a hearing.
Okay.
And bring them before our members for an evaluation and determination of dangerousness. So since the system is sort of backed up, then that process can take, sometimes the law enforcement may be in custody of this person for 2 days, and that's just unacceptable. We worked on this system last year, and our hope was that we could get it narrowed down to a couple of hours. But that's still not happened just quite yet.
Okay, and that kind of leads into the next part here of some possible solutions here with mental hygiene, some things we can do.
Well, and we contemplated these solutions last year during our session with the 50 folks in our legislation last year, was to modernize the system and use technology, video conferencing, to handle some of these hearings, so that you don't have people traveling to get places, which takes time, and then you don't have law enforcement waiting in or keeping people in custody for long periods of time, so they can get out and be back out in their communities serving their communities in that way. The big issue is that we have time frames for the mental hygiene evaluators, but we don't have time frames for getting someone a hospital bed, or we don't have time frames for the mental hygiene process, which in law really says forthwith, which means right now, but sometimes that gets stretched out a little bit. So we just recommend that the state hospitals have a time written in the law that they have to respond. So if it's 90 minutes, they need to have us a bed somewhere in the state of West Virginia for this individual who's in a crisis situation within 90 minutes. And if not, then they're going to be showing up at the doorstep of the hospital with an individual. And sheriffs and law enforcement get really frustrated because they have to spend so much time in custody of these patients.
Yep, it seems it's weighing down kind of the whole system. Yeah.
It's a backed up system.
Yeah.
We have another opportunity, which is sort of on a side note, is we have also some individuals that have intellectual and developmental disabilities, like we talked about in our last session, but they also have a co-occurring mental illness.
Right.
And so those individuals are really hard to place. There's not a facility for them in the state of West Virginia. There's not a place for them to go. So the ultimate place is that they're served in their home communities. They live in a house. They're able to engage with the community just like you or I. But when you have someone that has really high needs, they have IDD plus they have dangerousness behaviors. There's not really a place for them, and so there's a House Bill 3115 that contemplates creating a transitional facility to serve those individuals, so they are not being served in our state psychiatric institutions. It's more of an appropriate place for them. If you do that, then you remove and you open up those beds at the state hospital to be used in the case of a mental hygiene.
Okay.
And so therefore, our hope and theory is that they're not waiting around for those beds because of inappropriately placed people at the state hospitals that have nowhere to go.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds great. I think that's all we have for today, and appreciate you all tuning in, and check back next week for another legislative short. Mark, thank you for your time today.
Thanks, Lake.
All right. Appreciate it.
See you next time.
All right.